Yo, welcome. So, for some reason, there happens to be some people in the world and or in the universe at this time who still, for some reason, think that the universe is some amount of time older than 5,781 years. For whatever reason, they think it's a lot older. So let's try to go through all the different thought processes that might possibly go in to why these people think that way, and we can talk about the refutations to those. First of all, some people say, how could it be so young, 5,781 years, if there are all these stars in the distance that are apparently, according to some calculations, supposedly, quote unquote, millions of light years of distance away from the Earth. They say that is an absolute refutation to the 5,781 years. How can it be possible if these stars are so far away from the Earth? And if light takes that long to travel, how could the universe be that young? First of all, what is this assumption even going on? If this assumption is going on a naturally created universe, whatever that means, how would that even make sense? How would we even have a world in the first place for the stars to come? They would say, if it was really 5,781 years, then we should only see stars within 5,781 light years away. But since we see other stars that are more distant, therefore they say that proves, quote unquote, that it's older. But how? What is the assumption exactly? The assumption is that if it's younger, therefore we should still have a world, and we should still have stars, and we should still have stars further away, but we should only see the stars that are closer. I don't understand exactly what the other option would be. According to the Torah, the entire universe was created ready to go in its complete, full form, meaning all the stars were created with the ability to be seen by people, because that's the entire purpose for why they were created, to be signs for humans. So if the entire universe and world was created ready to go, with the stars created ready to be seen by people, then what exactly is the question? If the stars were created to be seen by people, so they were going to be created in a way that they should be seen by the people, which means that even if, according to their calculations, that if they really are millions of light years away, that means that the light would have to be created midway anyway. What other option exactly would there be? What exactly is the question? If the stars are created to be seen by people, how else should the stars have been created in the first place? People say, oh, well, why would the creator create a universe that looks old just to trick us? But the question is, what does an old universe look like as opposed to a newly created, ready-to-go universe? What actual practical differences should one notice in the universe? If it's created ready to go, what is the question? And besides the fact that the distance of the stars, that itself is questionable. Even if you look at with the strongest telescope, the stars appear to be a tiny little dot. You can't even see the size. And in general, the distance and size are interconnected. But that's another issue. The point is, regarding whatever science someone wants to use for the distance of the stars, that doesn't refute at all this date, because this is going with the Torah, which the Torah is supernatural, completely miraculous. Absolutely, there's no natural anything in the creation. Creation itself is not natural, since it's from nothing. By natural process, you can never get from nothing to something. It doesn't make any sense. Going from infinity to finite through a process of cause and effect will never get any closer than anything, no matter how long it goes. And also from nothing to infinity, or from nothing to anything, is the same as infinity to finite. But the point is, the universe was created ready to go. So it would have to be created in a way where the stars are visible to people. So how is this exactly a refutation to the 5,781 years? What exactly is the premise that this is based on? Okay, that's number one. Number two is the argument that people usually make is they say that they found some old bones underground of these mutated animals that they say, based on different dating techniques, they say they're that the radiation or different things that are in the bones appear to be older, and therefore they say that that proves the world to be older than this date. That's what they say, officially. Okay, first of all, until the flood, all of the animals mixed with other species of animals and created a bunch of mutations throughout the years, up until the flood. And then when the flood came around, it says the original animals were saved in the ark. Meaning, it says in the Torah, 2 by 2 they came. So the question is, why only 2 of each animal? What about all the other animals? But Rashi says, no less than 2. Meaning, there was many more than just 2 by 2 of each animal, but at least there was 2 by 2 of each original species. Meaning, there was the original species that were created in the Garden of Eden, according to their species. And then there was the mutations that were created during the years leading up to the flood. But then when the ark came around, it says the original species were saved in the ark, and all the mutations were wiped out, basically. It says all flesh was corrupt, implying even the animals. Then when the flood came around, all the other mutations of animals were wiped out. The flood was not a natural flood. It was completely supernatural in every way. It says the windows of the heavens opened up, allowing completely miraculous rain, as well as the well springs of the deep burst forth and gave forth a bunch of boiling hot liquid. And in some commentaries, it says that the flood was caused with the displacement of 2 stars, which modern-day scientists suggest that corresponds to the 2 meteors, craters that people found. But that's another issue. Point is, the flood was completely miraculous. It was not natural at all. So the fact that the flood wiped out all these mutations with this boiling hot, miraculous water, it obviously would cause them to look differently than normal bones. So the fact that they found bones that look different, of different species, does not prove anything. Similarly, regarding all the different variations of bones they found, they say, oh, well, we found this bone of this animal that looks similar to this other animal, so therefore we would assume that these came from each other. And then they try to use another theory that they call evolution, theoretically. But that itself is based on assumptions that because they found these 2 bones that look similar, therefore they must have come from each other, which is possible. I mean, first of all, in the Talmud, it says clearly that animals can adapt to change physical appearances based on where they are. But that doesn't mean anything about the original origins for where things came from originally. It does not say anything about the date, since in the Garden of Eden, all the creatures were created according to their kind anyway. So this does not help anything regarding an older date, just as much as it helps regarding the 5,781 years. Another quote-unquote proof that some people try to use is this tree ring theory. That they say that they found trees, that the trees must be so old because if you cut the trunk, then look in the rings of the trunk of the tree, then depending on how big the rings are, therefore that shows how old the tree is. First of all, even if that was completely accurate, theoretically, even if that was completely without any doubts, it says clearly in the Torah that all the trees miraculously grew on the 6th day, after Adam, the first man, prayed for rain. Meaning the trees, it says, okay, first of all, on the 3rd day it says the trees were created. But it says in the Midrash and the Talmud they were created underground, in a state of not fully grown yet. But then when Adam was created, he realized the importance for rain, so he prayed for rain, and then all the trees miraculously grew to full maturity. This is not being made up right now. You can look in Rashi and the Talmud. This is what's been said and passed down for thousands of years. So even if this tree ring theory is completely accurate with no doubts at all, but even if it was, then that would still not disprove the fact of this date at all, since all the trees were originally created mature in their full form. And even though many trees were wiped out during the flood, but not all the trees were wiped out. And the biggest proof is because Noah sent out the dove that brought back the olive leaf in its beak, and an olive leaf from an olive tree. That means that at least the olive tree was still left, and for sure other trees that were big enough. But the point is, why would people think in the first place that the universe is so old? Why is it such a popular opinion and everything happens only based on natural events? And the answer is that we are created in a way that we are created but in a universe that is completely hidden from the Creator. The Creator concealed His infinite light from us in order that we should recognize the Creator from ourselves with our own effort. And that creates a transformation of light from the darkness itself. But before that, the world just appears to be darkness, meaning it appears to be its own existence because it's created from the Creator, and the Creator is the ultimate existence with no prior cause or anything. Therefore, that state of being the ultimate existence with no prior cause is put in and implanted within the creation itself to make the creation it feel like that which has no prior cause and no other force beyond it.